Right now, as you're watching this, there is a full-blown revolt happening inside the United States Senate. Republican senators are refusing to go on vacation. A brand new Republican senator has just come out in favor of nuking the filibuster. And a leading election integrity investigator just called on President Trump to declare a national emergency to save our elections before November. While the SAVE Act has been frustratingly stalled in the Senate for over a year, something just broke loose. And in the last 7 days alone, more has happened on this bill than happened in the previous 7 months combined. You are not going to want to miss this. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, if you have not grabbed a copy of my latest book, Civcosm, you need to, because something big is coming for everyone who has it, and I don't want you to miss it. Civcosm gives you the framework to understand exactly what's happening in the world right now, why civilization states are rising, why this moment is full of opportunity, and why the future looks so good for patriots like us. And very soon, I'm taking Civcosm readers somewhere deeper. I'm working on it behind the scenes, and patriots who already have the book are going to have a serious head start. So if you haven't grabbed your copy, now's the time. Head to civcosm.com or scan the code below. All right, let's dive right in here, gang. So as many of you know, a couple of weeks back, Republicans passed a special rule attaching the full text of the SAVE Act directly onto must-pass national security funding, a maneuver insiders call MIRVing, right? MIRVing is borrowed straight from missile terminology, putting multiple warheads on a single rocket. And then just days later, House Republicans went even further. They advanced a $1.15 trillion defense package with SAVE Act provisions built directly inside it, passing 216 to 212. So the House Republicans have come through and then some here. 2 must-pass bills with SAVE Act measures attached to them. Bravo. The SAVE Act is now welded, as it were, to in effect bolted onto the funding bills that keep the government's national security apparatus running. So if Senate Democrats and that handful of wussy Republicans want to keep killing the SAVE Act, they got to be willing to blow up defense funding to do it. That's the political trap that the House built on purpose, and it is now sitting on John Thune's desk. Now, Thune had planned to send everybody home for a 5.5-week August recess starting August 7th. This is standard operating establishment procedure, business as usual, except this year, a growing army of Senate Republicans are saying absolutely not. Not while the SAVE Act sits on the shelf. In other words, no vote, no vacation. Right? Very simple. No vote, no vacation. As we speak, nearly 20 Republican senators have either called for canceling recess outright or they've expressed support for staying in Washington until this bill gets a vote. Even President Trump got in on it directly, posting that Thune, quote, should not allow the United States Senate to leave town until it passes the Save America Act or, far better still, terminates the filibuster. So whether Thune likes it or not, this isn't going away. He's not going to be able to quietly table the SAVE Act and hide behind his repeated excuses. The Republicans don't have the votes. We don't have the votes. What do you want me to do, right? Now, we should note, ironically, that even that claim, that excuse, the Republicans don't have the vote, and again, I say ironically, even that is progress. Remember, for an entire year, John Thune's answer to the SAVE Act was always the same. The Byrd Rule, which requires that all provisions passed in a reconciliation bill have to be budgetary. They have to be directly linked to the appropriation of funds and federal spending, not a policy issue or a changing or passing of laws or whatever. So Thune has been insistent for over a year that the Byrd Rule makes passing the SAVE Act as part of a reconciliation bill impossible. He said that ad nauseum. Budget reconciliation requires a bill to be principally budgetary, not policy oriented, blah, blah, blah. And he's argued if you try to force election policy through the reconciliation process, the Senate parliamentarian will strike it down. I should note the unelected Senate parliamentarian, the Obama-appointed Senate parliamentarian. Trump has just said ignore her. She's pathetic. But something has indeed happened to Thune of late to change his tune. Some are actually arguing it was Lindsey Graham, even before he died. Lindsey Graham appeared to convince Thune that there was indeed a legit way of passing the SAVE Act through reconciliation. And then after he passed away, Thune is now saying, yes, as it turns out, there is a way in which we can pass the SAVE Act through reconciliation. Exactly what Graham was arguing, exactly what Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana has been saying for months now. So that is not a Senate leader, mind-numbingly reciting this paralyzed rule book anymore. That's a man describing a workaround out loud on the record. You might even say he's learning to fight. So Thune is saying that this week he is going to have, quote, conversations with a number of the GOP holdouts. This entire fight keeps coming back to four names, right? Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, Mojtaba Mitch, as we call him. He hasn't been seen in weeks. And Tom Tillis of North Carolina. Those four Republicans have twice joined every single Democrat to block the SAVE Act from riding along on reconciliation packages. That's why conversations behind the scenes right now, the ones Thune himself has alluded to, are laser focused on flipping just one of those holdouts. We have 53 GOP seats in the Senate. We just need one of those four to flip. That's it. And it looks like it's going to be Susan Collins. Collins has actually supported the SAVE Act, but she's opposed to the procedure and attaching it to a reconciliation bill. Right, welcome to the Senate. If Thune can restructure this bill enough to get Collins comfortable or even just, neutral, that flips the math to get us to 50, with JD being the tie-breaking vote, which means that we could be finally crossing the finish line for the first time in over a year. But there's more. The pressure cooker just increased big time on Thune, and it came from perhaps the most unlikely of senators. Wait until you see this. The FDA has been trying to reclassify NMN as a prescription drug, which would permanently lock it behind Big Pharma's gate. But the Natural Products Association and Black Forest took them to court, and they won. NMN is still in your hands today because your fellow patriots fought for it. NMN is a natural supplement known to dramatically improve health and longevity as a precursor to NAD+, vital for the 37 trillion cells in your body. A Harvard study found NMN can help reduce weight, cholesterol, and blood pressure in overweight adults. Here's Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist and tenured Stanford professor, on why they tried to take this away from you.
We were talking, I think last time we spoke about supplementation as it relates to, metabolic pathways. And one thing I've been tracking pretty closely is this whole, the NMN thing has now taken
I was going to bring that up before we wrap this up. So let's explain NMN for people. It's a precursor for NAD+.
Right. NAD is critical to energy production in all cells, vital. And levels of NAD tend to go down as we age. It's an absolute requirement for cellular health in life. You need it. Some years ago, as David Sinclair came on this podcast and discussed that his laboratory is a tenured professor of genetics, Harvard Medical School, and other laboratories are starting to explore stimulating the NAD pathway as a tool for extending lifespan. You can't just take NAD, or you can, but it doesn't get into cells very easily. There are basically two ways that you can tickle this pathway, increase NAD. One is to take NMN. NMN could soon be a prescription drug that you can only get with a prescription. And then I think Metro International Biotech will likely hold the patent. I will say with NMN, a couple of things happen. First of all, energy, my recovery from workouts much better. I had to take it early day because it was giving me a lot of energy. I did notice my hair and nails growing at a ridiculous rate. And then I came off it just as a control experiment, slowed down again. So it was really interesting. I think there's something there in cellular growth pathways.
Interesting.
They tried once and they lost, but this fight is not over. So do what I've done. Stock up now and back the company that fought to keep NMN legal and in your hands. I take NMN every single day. I absolutely love it. And their 4th of July promo, unfortunately, is already ended. But I asked Black Forest to bring it back just for you. So for the next 48 hours only, it's buy one, get one free store-wide, plus a free bottle of NMN with every order. That's 3 bottles for the price of one. This deal is only for my audience, so use my link in the description or pinned comment. It's not on their website. When the 48 hours are up, it's gone and prices go back to normal. Click on that link below right now. The newest member of the United States Senate, Darlene Graham Norden of South Carolina, the sister of the late Senator Lindsey Graham, just did something her own brother actually never did. She has officially called for abolishing the filibuster. How's that for starting off on the right foot, right? This is a woman who inherited her brother's seat just weeks ago, right after his death. She was sworn in at his very desk. And instead of playing it safe and cautious and embracing the establishment, she's out there scorching Senate leadership and calling for the nuclear option. She's not some backbench nobody either. She's already made the SAVE Act the very first bill that she officially co-sponsored in the Senate. So make no mistake, this is a direct challenge to John Thune delivered by a freshman senator carrying her dead brother's legacy on her shoulders, and precisely why Trump endorsed her. She clearly knows how to play ball, and she's faithfully doing just that in order to force Thune to act. Now, there's another dimension to all of this, and this is the backup if the SAVE Act ends up failing, if Thune is too much of a political pussy to get this done. There are growing calls for President Trump to declare a national emergency to save our elections. The latest to come out advocating this is Garland Favorito, the co-founder of Trusted Election Results in the state of Georgia. He just released an urgent public statement this week calling on President Trump to do just that, to declare a national emergency to restore election integrity in the face of the Senate's feckless paralysis. Trump has done this before. I think it was back in, 2019 or 2017. I can't remember the exact year, but in his first term, he declared a national emergency in order to build the wall after the feckless Paul Ryan was frustrating his attempt at funding the wall every step of the way. And the key, we've talked about this in some of our earlier videos here. The key here with a national emergency declaration is that it essentially bypasses both Congress and the courts. It's very, very important to understand. So a national emergency declaration bypasses the entire slow motion Senate gridlock, and it bypasses any activist judge trying to stop it. It's different than an EO, an executive order, right? National emergency declarations are generally beyond the purview of the courts. The Supreme Court has decided that. Courts don't get to determine what's a national emergency, what isn't. Only the executive branch gets to do that. And a national emergency declaration can only be reversed by a 2/3 vote in the Senate, and good luck on getting that. So if the president has the legal authority and the political will to use emergency powers to force election security reforms into place, I mean, that changes. Seriously, that changes the entire calculus entirely. It's a nuclear option outside the nuclear option, right, of blowing up the filibuster. And the fact that credible voices in the election integrity movement are now increasingly calling for it, it tells you how urgent this fight has become with the midterms bearing down on us. So let's take stock of where we are this pivotal week. Bottom line, as we stand, while none of this is a done deal, there is indeed movement on the SAVE Act. For the very first time in over a year, every single piece of pressure it's existing simultaneously. The House has passed the delivery mechanism and welded the bill to must-pass legislation. Nearly 20 sitting senators are in open revolt against their own leader over recess. The president is publicly demanding the filibuster be terminated. A brand new senator carrying the Graham name is this week calling for that nuclear option to be detonated. And election integrity leaders are now escalating all the way up to demanding a national emergency declaration in the event the SAVE Act doesn't pass. That combination has never existed before simultaneously, not once. And so now is our time. It's our time to act and do our part to make sure this gets passed. So what do you think? Does Thune finally cave to 20 of his own senators and cancel recess? Does he find a way to flip Susan Collins and get this thing through reconciliation? Or does this whole fight collapse and we just go with a national emergency declaration? Let me know what you think. You're the ones changing the world. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.